What horrible thing happened to you as a kid and you didn't realize the severity of it until you got older? Not to me, but there was a family of kids that were being severely abused by their mother and nobody did anything. As children we obviously saw adults do nothing and thought it wasn't serious. One of them ended up drinking caustic soda when he was 12 in an attempt to kill himself. Looking back, I see that nobody protected those kids. Every adult failed them. What my mom meant when she planned to drive us to heaven. She was talking about wanting to drive us into a lake. Our babysitter died while she was watching us when my twin and I were 3. We had no concept of death, and tried to wake her up. She had spilled water when she fell, and I still remember getting a dish towel to wipe it up, thinking she would be proud of how responsible I was being. I remember going to get our little toy pots and pans to bang together to make noise to wake her up. We had no idea what a heart attack was. Mom took me along when she was buying drugs. Took me 30 years to realize waiting at a gas station at 6 a.m. on a Saturday wasn't a thing, and neither was driving way into the ghetto and having her friend drive around the block with us. Turns out not everyone sleeps on their laundry and goes right to bed when they get home every day either. It took me almost 25 years to realize that alcoholic parents aren't normal and other people have it different. My father urinated on my head once. I was outside and he was on the porch 2 stories up. It was dismissed as he thought it was my mother. Like that would have somehow made it okay. The teacher not letting me use the toilets in elementary school and peeing my pants under the desk, then getting yelled at by same teacher. How much my mother used to F me up, physically and verbally. She can't physically anymore today, but boy oh boy, does she still have that sort of a tongue. And will never, ever, ever admit to it. Ever. Crazy. Getting almost no guidance. It felt like freedom when I was a kid, but once I left home I realized it left me very unprepared to face the real world. Living in an environment with addicts. Having your head on a swivel and things going from 0 to 100 in 0.5 seconds is not normal. As a teenager I turned to alcohol to cope, and that was the only tool in my toolbox for most of my adulthood. Did not realize the severity of how bad I had got until I was in my 30s. My mom divorced my stepdad when I was around 7, and 6 weeks later she was moving into her new partner's house, up the street from our house. We had a dog that I've had since I was tiny, and her new partner had a dog. They didn't get on. So my mom left the dog in the now abandoned house alone. I remember using my pocket money and stealing money to get dog food, steal the keys, and feed her. I vividly remember the smell of the house. And how much weight and fur she'd lost. This was for about 2 weeks, and I was the only one who tried to help her aged 7. My dad visited and I told him, and he was horrified, and we took her to a rescue that day. Now when I see anything to do with a stray or abused animal, I'll have a full breakdown. My mom once highlighted my report card and wrote "This is what failure looks like" and put it on the fridge, because I got a C. In 4th grade a bunch of 6th graders, after torturing it, threw a cat from high up and it landed right in front of me and died. I was never quite the same since then, and it took until early adulthood to realize certain aspects about myself are because of that event. Knew it was bad, but not how much it affected me. A short list: getting injured by a knife from my dad, who didn't even realize he cut my hand in his delirium, stopping my dad from swallowing the 2nd pack of sleeping pills, and forcing him to throw up some, and the whole hospital ordeal. My mother arrived home only the day after being taught to be manly and never cry, and having the punches only stop once I stopped crying and amp. #X200B, something that I disliked but only after some time realized how bad it truly was, being forced to eat rotten/insect-infested food. BC we couldn't afford proper food, regular alcohol, drugs, and a pack cigarettes were affordable though. My mom asked me to type up a list on the computer so she could track which doctors prescribed her which medications. Dr. Smith prescribed the Xanax, Dr. Lopez prescribed the Klonopin, Dr. Johnson prescribed the Valium, Dr. Chung prescribed the Ativan. I was brought up in a cult. After reading these comments, maybe I didn't have it so bad after all. My thoughts are with all of y'all. Both of my parents were too burned out from their own childhood trauma to be functional and loving parents. For the most part, they did their best to provide for me and my siblings. But there is no love in my development. I am incapable of forming meaningful human attachments. Edit. Thanks for all the interest, everybody. It helps to know we're not alone in this. You've given me some great suggestions and stoked my interest in continuing therapy. Let's all be part of the solution and love our children the way we should have been. Good luck, my friends. In elementary school, I won first place in a Halloween costume contest. Finally, all those kids who teased me for looking like a girl would see that I was awesome. My parents helped me make my cat in the hat costume for like a week. Just recently saw pictures wicked cute. School principal called me up on stage and announced, as the first place winner, I got to choose any of the prizes from the girls' table. I had won best costume for the girls as a 7-year-old boy who was already teased for being girly. From this day forward, teasing turned to beatings. The moment of looking out at all of the whole school, as well as the parents, mine, too, and more, and thinking, see, I'm a winner. As they all laughed at my confusion has caused damage I'm still undoing 40 years later. My mother is borderline personality. Everything was horrible. As a kid, you think it's totally normal. When you reflect on your childhood as an adult, you realize it was child abuse. Bullying, it made me socially awkward, that's a disadvantage now. How unreliable and emotionally neglectful my parents were. I thought it was normal to only see them on the weekends, and to not trust them to show up when you needed them to. In my head, all parents did was work and be vague authority figures that I didn't actually know. My half-sister tried to drown me twice when I was little. It took me into my late teens to trust women again and still have a phobia of water deeper than 2 feet. No, my parents didn't try to help. She waited till those little lapses of being watched. I once brought home a bad test result from school and my mother took a pen to write "doof, stupid" in German on my forehead and then made me get in the car to drive to Dad's office so she could show him. I was about 8-9 years old. Not a horrible thing, but a very near miss. In the 3rd grade, I accidentally got off at the wrong bus stop coming home from school. I grew up in a rural area, so stops were usually miles apart on this county road with long dirt driveways leading to each property. Once I realized I was at the end of the wrong dirt road, I had no idea what to do and started crying until a stranger in a truck pulled off the road to see what was up. Me, then an 8-year-old girl, blindly trusted this stranger and got into his truck with no witnesses and nobody knowing where I was. That could have been it for me, but I got lucky, and he just drove me to the police station. I can't imagine what my life might be like if the wrong person had found me first that day. My friend and I were groomed/persuaded by an adult man on the internet to send inappropriate pictures. We were 11. Cops followed me home and pointed guns at me, told me I looked like a criminal, showed me a photo of some random guy who looked nothing like me.